The stones are not eager to talk about what they know. For decades, locals on China's lowest plateau believed that the crumbling rock walls located close to their houses were part of the Great Wall. It makes sense because the Chinese border is marked by the remnants of an old wall that zigzagged through this dry area inside the northern loop of the Yellow River and goes back more than 2,000 years. Was this really a part of the Great Wall, or was it something else? Pieces of jade, some of which had been made into scepters, blades, and discs, were discovered in the wreckage by locals and then by thieves, which seemed oddly out of place to archaeologists. The nearest source of jade is about 1,000 miles away from this area in the northernmost part of Shaanxi province. Because of this, the Great Wall did not have any jade at the time. No one knew that the Great Wall was made of jade. Why was there such a large number of them in this barren area near the Ordos Desert? A group of Chinese scientists was sent to look into the question a few years ago. They uncovered something both amazing and enigmatic during their time there. The stones were not part of the Great Wall, but rather the remnants of a beautiful military city. More than 6 miles of defense walls that surround a 230-foot-tall pyramid have been uncovered by the ongoing digging. Inside the pyramid, there are paintings, jade items, and terrible proof that people were killed there. Before digging had to stop earlier this year due to a coronavirus pandemic, researchers discovered 70 amazing stone relief sculptures. Similar to images from a later period of the Bronze Age in China, these sculptures show snakes, monsters, and half-human creatures. The fact that some parts of Shimo, as the site is called, although its original name is unknown, date back 4,300 years is even more amazing. This is almost 2,000 years before the oldest part of the Great Wall was built, and it is 500 years before Chinese civilization first settled on the Central Plains, which are located several hundred miles south. The site's original name is unknown. Around 2,300 BC and lasting until around 1,800 BC, the Shimo civilization developed in this area that seems hard to get to. Then, for an unknown reason, it was abandoned out of the blue. Ancient manuscripts that have been used to guide Chinese archaeology do not mention an ancient city that is located so far north of the so-called cradle of Chinese civilization, let alone one that was this big, complicated, and had so much contact with cultures from other parts of the world. Art and science that originated in the steppes of the north made their way to Shimo, which is now thought to be the most important Neolithic settlement in China. Shimo's 1,000-acre area is about 25% bigger than New York City's Central Park. Shimo would go on to have an effect on the Chinese kingdoms that came after him. Recent finds at other ancient sites in the area and along the coast, like Shimo, are forcing scholars to rethink the beginnings of Chinese civilization by giving them more information about its first cultures, where they lived, and how they were affected by the outside world. This is making scholars rethink where Chinese culture came from. Even though Shimo is still only a partly dug site in the barren hills above the Tuwei River, it gives the first impression of a city built to deal with constant danger. The town was built in the middle of a war zone on a border where herders from the northern steppe and farmers from the center plains had been fighting for thousands of years. On top of the largest hill in the area, the powerful Shimo people built a long pyramid with 20 floors. This was done to protect against enemies who were more violent. The tower is about half as tall as the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt, which was built during the same time period in 2250 BC and can be seen from anywhere in the city. But its base is 4 times bigger, and the Chinese elites lived on the top level of the platform, which had a 20-acre palatial structure with a water reservoir, craft shops, and most likely ritual shrines. This gave the leaders of Shimo an extra layer of security. The most horrifying find was made under the eastern wall of the city. 80 human skulls were found in 6 different pits, but none of them were connected to bodies. In each of the 2 pits located closest to the east gate, which served as the main entrance to the city, there were exactly 24 skulls. Because of the quantity and arrangement of skulls, it is believed that a religious beheading took place during the construction of the wall. Forensic experts have found that this is the oldest known case of human sacrifice in Chinese history. Almost all of the victims were young girls, and most likely, these girls were prisoners who were on the opposite side. The skulls are just one piece of evidence that suggests the East Gate marked the start of a new world. If someone had walked through the barrier, which was above the underground sacrifice pits, they would have been shocked by signs that were more obvious. Some of the stone blocks that made up the high terrace walls had low-shaped designs cut into them. This gave the impression that they were big eyes looking down at the East Gate. At regular intervals, thousands of pieces of black and dark green jade were pushed into the stone walls. These trinkets, which sparkled in the light, served two purposes. They kept away bad things and showed how powerful and wealthy Shunnao's nobles were. Given the large number of jade artifacts found in Shimo, it is possible that the city did not have its own source of jade and instead brought in large amounts from faraway trade partners. Sangsing-tu. In the summer of 1986, building workers in Sangsing-tu, which is located about 40 kilometers from Chengdu, the capital of Sichuan province, made an amazing find when they accidentally came across a cache of ancient jades, bone, earthenware, elephant tusks, and gigantic bronzes. This surprise discovery of two sacrifice pits would become one of the most important archaeological finds of the 20th century and force scholars to rewrite the early history of China. The artifacts were from around 1800 BC, a time period when it was believed that the birthplace of Chinese civilization was located on the Yellow River 1,200 kilometers to the northeast in the central plains of China. On the other hand, the bronzes made at Sangsing-tu were much bigger and looked very different than anything else that had been seen before. The Sangsing-tu society is thought to have been around for more than 500 years before it vanished without a trace, leaving no written records or human remains. Qinsha. This time in the city of Chengdu, at Qinsha, archaeologists made another find in 2001. This find could help solve the mystery of where they might have gone. This exhibition will look at the big question of where this civilization, which is 3,500 years old, could have originated, as well as where and why it quickly disappeared. It will also show many of the most important discoveries that have been made from both Sangsing-tu and Jinsha. A tree that had been buried in China for hundreds of years has been uncovered. A secret forest that is alive and growing at the bottom of a sinkhole has been discovered by caves researchers. Some trees in this area are up to 130 meters tall. A huge hole in the Guangxi area of South China has led to the finding of an old forest. The sinkhole is more than 176 million cubic feet in size and is 630 feet deep. Scientists in China think that the woods could be home to rare species that have never been written about before. In all of southern China, Wenqi is known for its sinkholes, and the biggest of the 30 is there. The story said that the site had 3 caves and a well-preserved primitive woods at the base of its walls. The sinkhole is beautiful as well as confusing, steep, and dangerous. As the group dropped 100 meters straight down, they used the single rope method for caves and the caverns inside to get down. They came out of the caves and found a green forest full of trees and plants. The group made it to the bottom of the hole, which was covered with a tropical jungle with trees that were desperately reaching up, growing tall and thin, giving the impression that they were small. At the bottom of the trench, the team on the trip discovered a sizable piece of wild plant life, as well as a very rare square bamboo. But there was no cave at the bottom of the pit that led to the underground river, and it is thought that the underground river had been moved.